This is Defiance Daily Dispatches for the Defiant. Folks, it's Wednesday. Wednesday is my favorite day here at defiance.org. And that is because on Wednesdays we do our weekly mission brief. What does that mean? It means on Wednesdays we do real things. We take real actions to fight back against Donald Trump's abuses of power. We grant funds to incredible organizations on the front lines, and we get activated as a community. We crowdsource those actions to combat corruptions. Real stuff happens every single week here. That is why we are doing this. And as we jump in today, I want to bring my Defiance.org co-founder, Xander Schultz, into the conversation. Xander, you and I are not doing this to be podcasters. I could give a flip about being a podcaster. We are here to do real stuff. However, you do have a very cool podcasting studio. So, oh, and you're muted. You're muted. So you got a cool studio, just not the technical acumen to keep up with it. Yeah. He's all like, right. Click. I'm fixing it. There we go.
Yeah, we're clearly not podcasters. I used to be just in boardrooms with whiteboards. No one knew my name not too long ago.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm very excited today. I was just saying in the green room to one of our guests, who is someone I adore, someone I admire, someone I'm thrilled to have here today, that I'm not pessimistic about the direction that we are headed. Yeah, I'm alarmed at what's happening to this country. I think Donald Trump is a once in a generation, once in a republic threat, but he will not win. And I'm convicted of that because of how many people are defying this man, including the people many of us least expected. And that's what today's weekly mission brief is going to be all about. We're going to be talking about defections from the MAGA movement and how this has gone from onesies and twosies, a drip, to a flood. Donald Trump is losing people. And I would say it's like the unforced error of the century. He keeps doing things that keep costing him parts of his movement. We'll talk about that today, including things this week that he's done that have cost him probably millions of supporters. So that's what's got me optimistic, X-Man.
I'm so happy you mentioned that. Miles and I literally had this conversation earlier today, and I was thinking about starting the show just with that same energy. Like the same organizing we're doing to stop fascism in this moment is the same organizing that will allow us to build a better future. It's going to be the ones that make sure data centers don't drink up all our waters and that we get our kids get the education they need. We were, and I say we very broadly as Americans, pretty complacent in civic engagement. Some of us showed up to vote. Many of us didn't even show up to vote every 2 or 4 years. And this moment, as Miles mentioned, thanks to, in part, a guy who's trying to, start his own authoritarian regime right here, has awakened many people to show up for things just like this on a weekly basis and realize that civic engagement is just part of our lives. It's a part of our lives. It's always happening. And I think we are building the infrastructure between a lot of our peers, to not only defeat fascism, but to build that bright future that we all want. And it's totally possible. We can do it. We can do it. We can get ahead of our problems. We can leverage all our new opportunities, and we can build that big, bright, beautiful future. And we're excited to do that with you all, on top of defeating this bad orange man.
That's right. Well, before we jump into our Defiance Win of the Week, because we always start these weekly missions with a win, I'll say, Xander, right now I'm in a deep red part of Ohio, a place where I used to see those Trump signs and MAGA signs that were like gigantic plywood banners, that stretch across an entire farm. And I have to tell you, I have been so surprised out here. I have not seen one. They have come down everywhere. Some of these have been up since 2015, 2016. You see them, the faded ones in the state. People are taking these signs down, and we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about the defections from MAGA that have become a grassroots movement. But first, let's go to that Defiance Win of the Week. And Xander, I understand that while I was out last weekend, you and our friend, former Republican Congressman Joe Walsh, covered how
Speaking of defections,
you guys had a conversation about Trump's Secretary of the Interior, Doug Burgum, and something that he did that backfired spectacularly. For those who didn't see it, can you catch us up?
Yeah, he created a snitch line. He and obviously coming down from the top, Trump wanted to make sure there was no evidence of DEI anywhere in the park, that there was a revisionist history that didn't, paint a picture of American history in the way that Trump wants to, which happens to be one void of some of the atrocities and harms that America has done. And it backfired. People were leaving Doug Burgum notes instead about him and his boss and the terrible ways that they are managing this country.
I love that. You create a snitch line for people to complain about DEI, and they call in and they snitch on you and your boss, and that's how it should be. This is what keeps happening to these guys, and I keep wanting to get ahead of myself in this conversation. I'll wait till we bring our panel in. But there's so much to say this week about how they're shooting themselves in the foot figuratively. Well, Xander, you'll be happy to know that Mr. Hikes in Crocs, Doug Burgum, and Donald Trump were delivered yet another significant loss in regard to their overhaul of the national park system. I want to go to WHAS 11 for a little bit of a rundown of what happened.
Oh, no. 7:10 here, and a federal judge has ordered the Trump administration to restore all national park signs that were changed following last year's controversial executive order. In a ruling, the judge wrote the administration seeks to share a limited history by removing signs or displays that do not, quote, align with its preferred narrative. She ordered all restoration must be complete by July 3rd and also blocked the administration from making further changes to exhibits at national parks. An Interior Department spokesperson suggested they could appeal. The ruling was in response to a lawsuit brought by a coalition of conservationists and advocates that accused the administration of erasing history and undermining science. Trump's executive order directed the Interior Department to take action against public content that inappropriately disparages Americans.
Look at that.
Yes, indeed. Well, and as our producer noted in the chat to us, that judge's decision is supposed to be enforced by July 3rd. In other words, they're supposed to restore these exhibits. They're supposed to restore these plaques, these stories about American history in time for America's 250th birthday. Talk about a smackdown. That's not a coincidence. That's not a judge looking at the calendar and saying, well, let me give you until November to put these plaques back up. No, by the time we get to that day when Americans are going to be at national parks across the country and be at these exhibits, you better have this stuff back up.
The undo Trump stuff, I thought we'd have to wait to 2028, Miles. We got to start throwing parties around the country.
I know.
We signed up for something that we weren't completely prepared to live up to this quickly.
It's been the most unusual type of FOMO I've ever experienced. Is we produced this video in April, imagining what it would look like in January of 2029 when we start to take Trump's name off of everything. If you haven't seen that video, you can see it at defiance.org. I think it's right up there at the top of our webpage. But now, as you note, Xander, the national parks are already getting restored, which are featured in that video. The Kennedy Center, where we imagine Trump's name being plucked off, that's already happened. And then, I don't know if you saw this, brother, someone climbed up on the Justice Department building and ripped down the banner of Donald Trump. And in our video, there are workers snipping the picture of him off and cheering crowds. It just keeps happening. So I'm not mad about it, but it's a little bit of FOMO. I'm like, I can't even keep up. It's all coming down. Yeah, that's really good to see. This is the only dictatorship I can think of where contemporaneously, as the monuments to the ruler are going up, they're coming right back down. So that is a sign of the defiance in this country. And that leads us, Sander, into our weekly mission and our conversation with our panel. I said at the top, we're going to be talking today about helping voters leave the MAGA movement, to get out of that cult, to get out of this cult of autocracy that Donald Trump has built. And this is a mission I know that's close to the hearts of a lot of our folks in the defiance.org community. But before we talk about how people leave political movements, it helps to understand why people stay in them in the first place and how they get radicalized and what that means for the underpinnings of our democracy. So joining us tonight, we could not have two better people in this conversation representing very interesting perspectives here. One is Ruth Ben-Ghiat. You know her. She writes Lucid on Substack. If you're not following Lucid, then you're clearly not Lucid. You've lost it. You need to be subscribing to Lucid. Ruth is a historian, a New York Times bestselling author, and one of the country, dare I say, the world's leading experts on authoritarianism and strongman politics. Ruth, it is wonderful to have you here.
So nice to be here.
We are also going to be joined by our friend, Tara Setmayer, who is someone who quit the Republican tribe, like me, who is someone who left the GOP to join the pro-democracy side, a former Republican communications strategist and one of the most prominent conservative voices to oppose Donald Trump and the MAGA movement. She is the founder of the Seneca Project. It's wonderful to have you here, my friend.
Always a pleasure to be here with
Tara,
you. Good to see you too.
Yeah, hi there.
I got to say, you guys, I mean this when I say this, I am such a huge geek fan of both of you. I tell Ruth that every time, whether we're backstage at an event or whether I'm on her show. I am just such a fan, Ruth, of everything you've written, everything you do. No one has called this moment more clearly. And that's because you've relied so consistently on what history tells us. I mean, history is the best form of philosophy because it's nature in a petri dish. We get to see how these things happen and how they've happened before. Tell us about the cult of MAGA and, for you, what the echoes are in history. What should we know about authoritarian movements and how they become grassroots, not just a wacky idea in a wannabe dictator's head?
Yeah, well, it's really good that you are talking about his name coming down and the signs coming down, because that's kind of rare in the middle of a government, and it shows us that we are not a fascist dictatorship and that there's a lot of resistance here. There's a lot of legal resistance. But in fact, we're actually 10 years into this radicalization of people by Donald Trump. He not only tried since like 2016 to emotionally recondition people to not, be into kindness and empathy, to see other people as like enemies, and to attach to him. That's the key. When he said, I care about you, I love you, I alone can fix it. And then the evangelicals and other religious denominations said, oh, he's in office by the will of God. I was sitting there with like a check pad going, okay, check this box, check this box. And he's been able to build a really effective personality cult. But we're really 10 years into this, and he kept it while he was out of power. So that's why if we see signs of people waking up, or you said you're in Ohio in a red area and people's yard signs and stuff are missing, this is not a small thing, because people are waking up to the fact that he doesn't care about them and that he's not interested in governing. He's interested in, as the Washington Post found, they analyzed his speeches to see what he talks about the most. Well, big surprise, he talks about his ballroom and how great he is.
No way.
Waking up. And so I just want to say one last thing. There are studies. There's a lot of resistance going on around the world right now. Gen Z movements, all kinds of movements, most of it nonviolent. And so people have started analyzing what are the conditions for both resistance to occur of all forms, and also defections, when people start waking up and they were party militants or even like officials. And we meet all these conditions. One is blatant corruption by the government and the leader. Check. Two is increasing economic hardship, where people find that because of absurd policies by the government, they're just doing badly. And third is really interesting. The government is not only brutal toward them, like the ICE occupations, the other stuff, but it's uncaring. So they do things like take away disaster relief, make it harder to get vaccines so you can't keep your kids healthy. So we actually meet all of the conditions for people to start waking up, and in whatever form they're comfortable with, to take action to spread the word about MAGA being a fraud.
Tara, you, like my partner, are a Republican Party defector from this nightmare type takeover of your political party. I wonder, looking back on it, I'm curious about two things. One, at what point did you go, this is not just a new iteration of my party, this is a fundamentally different thing and I need to get off the ship? And two, as you reflect on it, what do you think made the Republican Party vulnerable to this takeover?
Well, those are two. Well, the second part of that question, the latter, is a much longer case study, but I would say that it was a very naked desire for power. They jumped onto the ship when they saw that that's the way it was going and never looked back. And unfortunately, in politics, power is intoxicating and we see people sell out all the time. And I think a lot of people didn't think it would ever get this far. But once you start down the track, it's hard to stop that. And at that point, they're like, well, we're here now and we don't want to lose out. But Ruth could probably give better historical examples of how those parties become corrupted and the cascading effect of that and what we've seen. But I can tell you, for me, there were several times in the first term for Donald Trump. I did not vote for Donald Trump. I was one of the, as Miles mentioned, one of the most outspoken conservative Republican voices in cable news. At the time, I was a CNN contributor when Trump came on the scene in 2015. And so I was an OG of the Never Trump movement. About 4 times during the first term, I wanted to quit the party. I can tell you the very first time was after Charlottesville. I said, okay, this is crazy. I'm out. And Michael Steele convinced me to stay. Former chairman of the RNC, good friend of mine. He said, no, we have to stay because if they run us all out, who's going to be there to right the ship? So I said, okay, you're right. Okay, let's try to fight this from within. The next time was Helsinki and Finn. I mean, that was a disaster where he sat there standing next to Putin and took the side of our enemies over our own intelligence. Next was the Brett Kavanaugh situation. That was another time where I was just like, what are we doing here? The Kavanaugh confirmation hearing and how atrociously they treated women and Christy Blasey Ford and all of the hijinks that went around that. It was disgusting. And then the final straw for me, 4 years into this thing where I said enough was enough, was election night of 2020 when Donald Trump sat there in the East Wing of the White House and refused to concede the election. And the Republican Party let him do it. So all of that bullshit about the Constitution and all of the, the sanctimonious waving of the pocket constitutions on the House and Senate floor, all the years I worked in Capitol Hill, it was all about the Constitution. That right there showed me that they were willing to even allow potential constitutional crisis, which is supposed to be sacrosanct, in order to placate Donald Trump. I said enough is enough is enough. And as a matter of fact, the video where I officially left the party is still pinned to my Twitter feed because it still applies. I said the malignancy of Trumpism was too much. I'm not doing this anymore. I want nothing to do with this party. It is irreparable, and frankly, it should burn to the ground. And and I will help burn that to the ground. And when it's time to rebuild that from the ashes, I'll be more than happy to be a part of a sane right of center party because I think we need diversity of thought here. But this current iteration of it, no way. I want nothing to do with it and anyone who's associated with it.
Well, Ruth, one of the really resonant things you said was corruption. I've got to say, as someone who also, like Tara, has spent my life in the conservative movement. I mean, I went into the first Trump administration as a conservative Christian libertarian. I remain all of those things. I'm no longer a Republican, but it's not like I was a Trojan horse liberal trying to take down Donald Trump.
Right.
But what flipped me was the very obvious corruption and experiencing it personally. The man offering us pardons to break the law for him in his own words. You can't experience that and say, well, I can just look the other way. I mean, when you're a public servant, the bare minimum threshold is you don't break the law, right? You're there to uphold the law. It was not heroic for any of us to say, I think we need to hold the line at not breaking the law for the boss. But now this experience of being turned off is an understatement, but appalled at the corruption is now going mainstream. And one of the reasons we're having this conversation today is because we are seeing so many folks bail on Donald Trump, including over the Iran deal. I mean, some of his most fervent MAGA supporters from cable news, to here in Ohio, are furious at what they're seeing. And it seems to be a whole lot of potential corruption weaved into these decisions about when to go to war, why to go to war, when to end this war. And now it seems like details are also going to be hidden from Congress. Trump doesn't want to bring these details out into the open, probably because they are so embarrassing or damning. I've got a quote here. Mark Levin wrote, quote, "I sure as hell hope I am misreading and mishearing things about the deal." The Mark Levin that inspired Trump to go to war. Ben Shapiro warned that if reports about the deal are true, many supporters who stood by Trump during the conflict will be, quote, "extraordinarily disappointed." Lindsey Graham, Mark Thiessen, on and on. What should we read from this, Ruth? Is an off-ramp being created? And what can you tell us about what these off-ramps can and should look like to start to chip away at the edifice of Trumpism in the MAGA movement?
So what you're describing is, thinking about people who are quite extremist on the right. Let's say that they didn't like most of the politicians. They think all politicians are corrupt. So let's say that they never really cared that Donald Trump came in January 25, and he basically tried to govern without Congress. He used executive orders. He didn't consult them. Let's say they also didn't care too much that he has Marco Rubio, but they're not really caring that his old friends Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner are doing sensitive negotiations. And maybe they don't know, because Fox News doesn't tell them, that all the experienced Middle East experts have been sidelined. But what they see is incompetence, that a big charade was planned, and we're ending up with the same status quo, except 13 lives are gone of American service members. And Iran is actually stronger than ever. Now, even if they don't know that, so I'm trying to erase all the variables, like maybe they don't care about this or that, but they did care about the cult of Trump as infallible. He was the one who was competent. He could solve all problems. I alone can fix it, he told us. And then they see that he's making mistakes, and they hear increasing numbers of retired military people saying, well, we went to war in the wrong fashion. There was street incompetence. And then they see we're not getting anything out of this war, and gas prices have gone up. So that's something. When it's called, there's actually a word for this called autocratic backfire. When the head of state surrounds himself with sycophants and family members and old friends who don't know what they're doing, but they keep his secrets. So it's not only the corruption, it's the incompetence. And then they start doing these absurd policies. We already have the tariffs, and now we have the war. And that is when they start to become unpopular, and discontent spreads even among the formerly faithful. So we're kind of in that groove now, and it's really interesting and hopeful to see in terms of people peeling away from Trump. The rest is tragic, including these. And people say, well, 13 Americans died for what?
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that. My mind was kind of spinning on this fix from within versus defect dichotomy that you were mentioning, Tara. And I really want to get, Tara, I want to start with you, but I'd love both of your thoughts on this. Do you feel like not only is there in a lane for defection and being part of a broad coalition that is resisting, but also, different individuals claiming the MAGA mantle? Can we say there's a world where we say, we're not MAGA anymore. There's another world where someone says Trump's not MAGA anymore. He said he was going to make things better for American workers and bring better jobs back. He said he was going to support military members by not bringing us to senseless wars. He said that he was going to help families struggling to make ends meet by making things more affordable. And he said, he was going to help out with democracy, that he was going to stop steals and fix our democracy. Now, you can say what you will about his intentions beyond those claims, but those aren't terrible priorities, right? And so there's a world, I think, where people can say this guy has abandoned principles that a lot of people rightfully care about, and we should be claiming that cultural mantle from him. Tara, I wonder your thoughts as a political strategist, and then Ruth, if you could provide some historical analogies on that front too, that'd be great.
Mm-hmm.
So that's Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah,
those are the people. I mean, that's Marjorie Taylor Greene. That's Thomas Massey. That's Tucker Carlson. That's the splintering off of that wing of the MAGA folks who are now America First. So you're already seeing that. They recognized already in the first less than a year of Donald Trump's second presidency that he was full of shit. They were like, oh, wait a minute. We're giving you a second chance. You promised us all these things, including releasing the Epstein files, which was really the beginning of that splinter. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, I mean, I'm not going to give her credit for anything. She's still awful. But watching that splinter off, to me, was like the Fort Sumter cannon shot of the Civil War splinter of the MAGA movement. So mark my words, you will see a Marjorie Taylor Greene or Massey and those types running for president under an America First banner or something like that, claiming that Donald Trump and his minions weren't truly America First for all of the reasons that or MAGA for all the reasons that you just listed. I think MAGA goes away and America First becomes their new mantle. Now, part of why I left, and I mean, there were a myriad of reasons why I left. I had enough. I just named a couple of them. And then January 6th, of course, coming from a law enforcement family, was just the icing on the cake. But part of the reason why I started the Seneca Project, and I'm proud to say that Ruth was part of the beginning of that for us on our advisory committee, was that we wanted somewhere for women in particular to know that we didn't care who you voted for before. Just don't vote against your self-interest this time around, because of all of the things that Republicans have done to roll back women's rights and roll back our autonomy, our bodily autonomy. Now they're going after our voting rights. Like we said, we were a bipartisan organization. We didn't care. It doesn't matter. And the ballot box is the last place that you had privacy, where no one knows what you do there. We're not going to judge you if you voted for Donald Trump. Even if you voted for him twice before, just don't vote for him again. Now, of course, that, we've had to expand that mission now, because unfortunately too many white women decided to vote for Donald Trump again. We're in this position, and it's worse. We're like looking at Gilead times here. But we have embraced, under the Seneca Project banner, the idea of America is watching. We literally just did a targeted ad campaign where 40,000+ people at that stupid, tacky UFC event on Sunday at Donald Trump's event got our America is Watching ad based off of the Epstein issue, telling people, doesn't matter who you voted for, doesn't matter what you believed before, but we will never forget who protected predators. And that, because we know that that's one of the hallmark issues that's starting to splinter and wake up the MAGA base, that Donald Trump is a liar. And then you add on another branch of that is going to be the corruption part of it, because they don't like the fact that he's enriching himself and talking about the ballroom and everything else. Meanwhile, they're suffering. Everything he's doing has not made their lives better. So he's exposing himself for the con artist that he is. And these types of things, I think we need to continue to do to give people a permission structure to step away from MAGA. We have to let them know you've been conned, just like being in a cult. It's okay. Yeah. You can walk away from it, and for your own interest, but it takes work. And, that's what we're doing here over at Seneca, and hoping to continue to do more of it.
Well, Ruth, I want to give you the final word here, and feel free to answer Xander's question. But I also, a number of years ago when I published my first book on all of this, I said that people felt, even inside Trump's first administration, like he had a weakness for strong men. Okay. I mean, it was very obvious how much he admired the autocrats of the world. He envied them. He showed true, jealousy when he met with Xi and Putin, Kim Jong-un in North Korea, that they could do things he couldn't. And he said those things publicly. So he had this weakness for strong men. You wrote the literal book. Yeah, you wrote the literal book on strongmen, and he still does. And I've got to say, if there's any silver lining here, it's, as Jonah Goldberg would say, it's that Donald Trump is is incandescently stupid. I mean, he's truly one of the dumbest human beings that I've ever worked with. And I mean that, not derisively. I mean that observationally. And so he could have been even more effective as an autocrat. He doesn't see how promoting a ballroom is so obviously self-defeating. We couldn't do anything more destructive to him than he is doing to himself. So tell me, Ruth, how could we screw this up? Because it does feel like the wind is in the sails of the Defiance in this country. How could we screw this up? And how do we avoid screwing this up and avoid the things that could take us away from restoring the rule of law in the United States of America?
I think we keep doing what we're doing. We're at, just as they've done the pace of change, the pace of the destruction of government, and the flowering of corruption doesn't correspond to any other autocrat who's come to power by elections. He's been more destructive in 18 months than the first 18 months of Putin, of Erdogan, of Orban. But resistance is also, we're a huge country, so it's very decentralized, but resistance is also very healthy. And then there's legal resistance. There's a ton of pushback, as we were noting, not just his name coming down, but all kinds of hundreds of cases that have slowed down. So there's a lot of resistance, considering the size of the country, that there's not a multi-party system, and we're just 18 months into this. So this is all good. So we have to just keep this resolute path. The other thing I'd say, when we many of us know someone in our family or community who has been, kind of indoctrinated by MAGA. And so if they start waking up, that's the way I put it, or distancing themselves, there's a tendency to want to say, I told you so. How could you have been so stupid? We don't want to do that. Nor do we want to do what I was doing with my mother, who got radicalized. She lives in England, watching Russia Today, and she became like totally pro-Putin. And I would call her and I would hang up on her. Don't do that. So because one of what we know from a ton of studies about people, not only people leaving like authoritarian cults, but other kinds of cults, or even people who got ripped off by con men, they're very afraid of feeling judged and shamed. They're afraid of like people, looking down on them. So we actually have to guide them kind of gently and show them the truth and let them know like the truth about what's going on, but not judge them openly to their face, because then what they do is they retrench and they go back to the tribe. So it's
so hard though. It's so hard sometimes, because you want to be like, you're unhappy. The rest of us have been screaming this for 10 years and the country's going to hell. And now all of a sudden you decide you want to wake up. Well, good for freaking you. We've been fighting this fight for a decade and look at the mess that we're in. But that's the inside voice.
That's the inside voice.
Also, people, like, I put Trump in my book and it was written during his first term. And a bunch of people, including in some reviews of the book, they were like, she should have stayed in her lane and just talked about Italy. Why is Trump in there? And now they've like realized years later that there was a reason he was in there. So, it takes people time to figure out what's going on.
Turns out the historian knew what she was talking about, gang.
Right.
Yeah. Surprise!
Pay attention.
Well, Ruth, I think that's a perfect point to end on, that empathy is the off-ramp. And we've all experienced that in our personal lives on small issues where we wanted to say, I told you so to someone, and by having some self-discipline and showing empathy, you're much more likely to get the result you want rather than the naked short-term satisfaction of getting to say, I told you so. I've yet to hear the story of someone saying, I told you so, and someone responding, yes, praise be to you for telling me so. So thank you both. Ruth Ben-Ghiat, we are so grateful for you always. I think the last time we had you on was in the earliest weeks of Defiance. We're not even a year old, but we've been surging since then, thanks to your help and leadership and teaming with folks in your community. Thank you for everything you do. Tara, I love you. Thank you for being in this fight as long as you've been in this fight. As Jerry Maguire says, it's a pride-swallowing siege every single day, but you keep fighting.
Yes.
So America owes you both a debt of gratitude, and I mean that very sincerely. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, guys.
Hi, gang.
Be sure, if you're not following both of them on Substack and social media platforms, please do. Follow Lucid. Ruth's Substack is fantastic. Her notes are second to none. You're hearing from one of the foremost historians in the world. If you're not following Seneca Project, you're missing out on some of those things that Tara just mentioned, like the ad that they pushed out there during the UFC fight, which is the type of thing that is turning heads and changing minds. And that's what we're talking about tonight, Xander, because the organization that we are bringing in to have a conversation with us is an organization that we spoke to. We spoke to the leader of that organization actually just a few days ago. And you'll understand why we're speaking to him again today, because our mission this week is help voters leave MAGA. And there are a few groups out there doing that work more effectively than an organization aptly named Leaving MAGA. Joining us now are Rich Logis, founder of Leaving MAGA, and community organizer Brandon Freeney. Rich, Brandon, welcome, my friends. How you doing? We might have Brandon.
You're on mute, Rich, and we don't have Brandon.
That's great. I love starting that way. Or we have Brandon behind kind of a wall of anonymity. You know, sometimes you got to do that.
Okay, now I'm here. Thank you, guys.
There we go.
I feel like I haven't left.
Rich, I know. Well, we wanted you to be back here because this is such a potent week to have this conversation. We were just talking about it with the panel, about how the Iran war has ended catastrophically. You cannot overstate the fact that some of the biggest bleeding on the floor MAGA diehards willing to do anything for Donald Trump, willing to take a rhetorical bullet for Donald Trump, are now saying, I can't put up with this anymore. This guy is incompetent. And they're giving air cover for more people to leave. Now, Rich, for people who are just hearing about your organization, Leaving MAGA, for the first time, I want you to tell us, what are y'all about and what need are you trying to fill out there in the marketplace of ideas?
We founded our organization to be a new community for people who decide to leave MAGA, for those who are in the movement, who are having doubts, they're confused, they're questioning their belief system. And also we provide support and services for friends and relatives of those who have MAGA close ones, friends or relatives, and we do support groups for those friends and relatives. And I will say to you guys, as an organization who I believe more than any other organization, we've got our ears to the ground on what's happening. There are more people than ever who are in MAGA right now who are quietly leaving and are privately having doubts. Mm-hmm. You know, we've got a billboard campaign that we've been running, and the number one metric that we've used to determine its success is how many people who are in MAGA are reaching out to us from seeing it. And we have more people than ever who are contacting us saying, I'm in MAGA, I'm scared, please help me, I want to leave. And it is scary for someone to face the prospect of admitting that they're wrong and walking away from everything that the MAGA community provides it, having a second family, the feelings of gathering and belonging and camaraderie. But we need to create the destination and the off-ramp for people where we normalize the admission of making a mistake, and we try to destigmatize the shame and the ostracization that comes to so many people when they admit a mistake. We want friends and family of those who have MAGA identified close ones to be able to welcome those who decide to leave, to welcome those who are having doubts, because if someone in MAGA has left, we want them to go public. And if someone is having doubts, if they are fearful of recriminations or judgments or shaming, just like Ruth was saying in the prior segment, they're not going to come forward. And we want to give them the opportunity to be able to come forward, walk away from the extremism, and reclaim their individuality, their agency, and their empathy.
Hell yeah.
100%. Miles, were you going to say something? Sorry, buddy.
No, go ahead. I mean, I'm always ready to say something.
I think Brandon's here too. Brandon, what's going on, brother?
Hey,
Brandon, welcome back. We got you.
I appreciate it. Not much, man. I'm just here listening to Rich preach the Leaving MAGA gospel.
Well, Brandon, I want to bring you into that conversation as well. You know, I've been on kind of my own reaching out to friends and family and even neighbors journey here in Oregon on trying to get embedded in more MAGA communities and talk with people. And what I'm finding, you know, when I'm finding the most success is when I'm most curious about their why instead of their what. You know, why were they drawn to it? What were the issues they're facing versus what do they like, right? The what do they like is always going to be a bit distasteful, you know, or what did they like might be distasteful, but why they got there. You all wrote a whole guide about this. There's a reaching out guide for people like me. And if you have the skin tone, you probably have a MAGA family member out there that want to reach out to MAGA family members or MAGA friends and have a conversation. Can you talk to me a little bit about kind of the ethos within that reaching out guide? That one's for you, Brandon. Oh, we don't have audio.
Some technical difficulties.
Maybe muted?
Maybe muted. Rich, you want to take a first stab at that? And then we
Yeah,
can
sure. Sorry about the technical difficulties.
No worries.
We put together the reaching out guide for friends and relatives of those still in the thrall of MAGA. And we've got do's and don'ts in there. You know, something that's a big don't that all of us are guilty of, including myself, is thinking that we can change hearts and minds with facts and with policy. Most people are not making decisions based on facts and policy. They're doing it based on feelings and emotions and perceptions. And in the guide that we put together, it's not full of psychological terminology. It's not that lengthy, but it's been used successfully by people to approach their friends and relatives to try to reinitiate and re-navigate some of those conversations that and relationships that they feel like have been hopeless and are beyond redemption. And what we really encourage through our work and through the guide is we don't want people to give up on their MAGA friends and relatives. You know, we believe that most people in MAGA deep down are good people. And even though I don't defend the ignorance, people in MAGA have been led astray, and they were not led astray and had their fears and concerns exploited and manipulated because of reason or facts. It was because of emotions. It was because of a multi-decade coordinated effort by the right wing to demonize, vilify, and dehumanize liberals, Democrats, and progressives. And so with the Reaching Out Guide, we want people to take an approach of empathy. When we're in MAGA, we view empathy as a weakness. When you leave MAGA, you reclaim that empathy. And if we take the time to try to understand why people were attracted to MAGA, it opens up lots of avenues for us, including trying to get a feel and a sense for where they get their information from. Because what I can promise everyone who's seeing this is that while every group to some extent is information siloed, there was no group who was more info siloed than people in MAGA. And I can attest to that, having been in MAGA for 7 years, and the fact that any information that even remotely refuted the pervasively held mythologies or beliefs of the community, it was shunned, it was kept out. And if we try to understand why they believe what they believe, that will offer the insights and glimpses, and we'll discover that so much of what seduced people about MAGA is that people in the country, so many, felt that democracy had failed them, that they felt unseen and unheard by their government, feelings that elected officials care mostly about the wealthy and the powerful. And while Trump has just exacerbated these problems, he originally gave voice to these feelings. And people who felt like they didn't have a messenger on the left or the right, Trump came in as this person without any military, government, or political experience and said, let's just burn the whole system down and rebuild it and start anew. And I admit that that was attractive to me. I felt like the two parties were the same. And I thought, let's just obliterate the established political order and let's start something new because the two parties were the same. I realize that it is much easier to tear something down than it is to build it up. And as part of the pro-democracy work that Leaving MAGA engages in, we continue to make the case to those in MAGA and those not in MAGA that we as a country and as a people agree on important issues more than we disagree. And we're going to continue to stress and emphasize that mantra, because if you get a pro-MAGA and anti-MAGA person together, what people will discover is that there's more alignment and concurrence than there is difference of opinion. And the Reaching Out Guide is a way to initiate and start those uncomfortable conversations, but conversations that need to be had if we're going to show people that there's a better way of doing politics and that there's a way out of MAGA.
You know, the burn it down metaphor, Rich, is not overplayed. And here's why I'm thinking about that, because a lot of folks did want to do that in anger. And it's a common feeling, even outside of politics. I'm going to give you an example. Is we've got mice in our house right now. I was complaining to Xander about this. We got a mice problem.
Don't burn down your house, Miles.
Only half jokingly, my wife was like, we just got to burn this place down. That's the only way we get these damn mice out of here. Burn this place down, right? And you get in this angry mode. Well, if we burned the house down, we'd be living in the wilderness, right? And that is what is happening to our democracy. We let this guy come in. We were so mad. We let him burn the place down. And now we're realizing, oh, wow, we are living in the wilderness. He has destroyed everything that we depended on. I want to play for both of you. I think we've got Brandon back. I want to play for both of you this clip in a second here. I don't know if you know the podcast called The Necessary Conversation. It's this liberal brother and sister, a duo.
I was on it today.
Oh, great. Oh, this is perfect, Rich. What a crazy world. Well, then this is perfect timing, Rich. Really, we should just play a clip of you on there. But Chad and Haley, you know, they have these conversations with their conservative parents, Mary Lou and Bob. And the other day, there were conversations that they were having because the father, Bob, has been, you know, recently dealing with health issues and hospitalized. And so Mary Lou has spent a lot of time focused on his care. And there's this exchange where Chad asks his mother about something she's noticed over the past few weeks. And Rich, I want you to watch this and give us your feedback on the other side, as well as maybe an update on your conversations with them.
Saying that you've been kind of disconnected from the news and stuff for this past week, effectively. You haven't watched Newsmax at all? Do you find it interesting that all you have to do is not watch Newsmax for a week and you're disagreeing with Trump when you're just presented with the facts and you can think about them for yourself, and Smokey Joe and the boys aren't telling you like what to think, basically? When you're just thinking for yourself, none of this shit sounds pretty good, right?
Right.
Wow.
Is that at all doing something to you? Just that realization that, like,
I feel like I need to reconnect and get online and start reading and doing. I just haven't had the time to do it yet.
But when you reconnect, you're reconnecting to those same news sources. You're going to go back to Newsmax. You're going to be back in your Instagram feed or TikTok.
I have ground news now.
Okay. But I'm just saying, I'm giving you the facts here with no bias other than my own, but you know that. It's not like I'm trying to propagandize you. I'm just telling you what happened. We're having a conversation about it, and you're coming to the conclusion on your own that these things are bad.
But you're presenting it in a way, too, that's against him, I feel.
But you know I'm going to do that. That's just me.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I don't feel like my bias in it is like swaying you one way or another. I've had that same bias we've been doing this show for 4 years.
Just give me time to get my brain back in it a little bit, and then, but yeah, all that you said I don't agree with.
Okay. I mean, that's 3 for 3 anti-Trump.
Okay.
You're sounding very much like, I hate to say it, a lib.
No way, ever,
Oh my God.
ever.
Oh my God. The worst thing you could say at the end of that, I imagine. Rich, what do you think?
Well, Mary Lou, to her credit, today agreed that she would take up a homework assignment I offered her, which was to diversify her news and information sources. Because when I was on the pathway to leaving MAGA, one of the most important, profound decisions that I made was to diversify my news and information sources. And I think it shows with Mary Lou and other people in MAGA that MAGA media is designed to keep people addicted to rage and fear. And you don't have to be screaming and ranting and raving to be rageful and addicted to that outrage. And so I believe that if Mary Lou follows through on keeping her word on her homework assignment, and I take her at her word that she will, 2 weeks from now, she's going to have less rage and less fear. And it comes back again to the fact that there has been this multi-decade coordinated effort to propagandize people from the right wing, to vilify Democrats, liberals, and progressives, and create a they. A they I was talking about when I was last with you guys, who try to abridge our rights and try to indoctrinate our children. And the information sources, which there's good news here to share. There's a report that I just read today that shows that year over year, lots of MAGA media sites have been significantly losing traction. Fox News, The Federalist, Breitbart, some other sites that are very, very MAGA friendly are losing readership. And I believe that one of the reasons they're losing readership is because of exactly the motif of our conversation today, which is people leaving MAGA, and the fact that the president knows that there are cracks forming. And I think those schisms and chasms are going to continue to widen. That's the good news. What we need to be prepared for is to welcome those people out. And I think that's what we're establishing. And I think that what Leaving MAGA is doing and partnering with you guys and other organizations, we're at the vanguard of being able to show people an avenue out of MAGA.
And for those doubting people's capacity for redemption, I've been around, during my refugee work, a lot of my best volunteers at a refugee center were former ISIS members. They were teenagers that had joined ISIS during the Syrian revolution and then left and fled, and were so excited to start anew in Europe and redeem themselves, and were volunteering, taking care of women and children at our center. In the criminal justice reform movement, our best leaders are formerly incarcerated, and some of them were incarcerated for very violent crimes. One of my best friends in that movement, one of my best friends in the world, period, and a leader in that movement, served 12 years for murder. And some of the best leaders in our society got there because of a redemptive path. They saw something. And I'll say, just to take a step back, most of them, if you sit in their shoes and you talk to them about what was going on in their lives, they're reacting the best they can to their information and their opportunities presented to them. Right? The best information they have, we might know it's not good information. They didn't know it wasn't good information. And they might have had limited opportunities, but they were reacting as best they could to those for the most part. I'm not mentioning the 1 or 2% sociopaths out there. For the most part, that's who you'll meet. And they are oftentimes some of the best leaders among us. Rich, I want to get into your work a bit here, though. You kind of have two audiences, right? You have you're reaching out to MAGA members through your billboards, through your text campaigns. And then you have an audience that's a lot wider. A lot of our members, here at Defiance, which is we may have a friend or family member. We likely do have a friend or family member that's in MAGA, and you're both supporting those people in kind of dealing with that stress and anxiety, and also supporting them in their attempts to get to that broader MAGA coalition. Can you talk about those two audiences and how you're reaching out to both of them?
Yeah, so for those who are in MAGA, you mentioned the billboard campaign. We are terminally online. We are always engaging with people online, looking for those who have left. We've met people through online work who left. There are people who have met us. We have one couple who entered MAGA together and left MAGA together, and they found us through our online work. So there is a very heavy online presence. As far as friends and family, we host weekly free online support groups for them. And we put these support groups together to have people focus on what they can control. And and there's a lot of emphasis on self-care. And for the support groups, we keep them open and free because we feel that there should be no financial hindrance to being able to attend these groups. And I created the groups as part of my overall desire to make amends for my past MAGA activism, which every time I have an opportunity, I always like to apologize for the fact that I helped the president divide the country and that I was culpable and complicit in assisting him in amplifying conspiracy theories. So friends and family have as much a place with us as anyone. It's why we put the Reaching Out guide together. It's why we constructed it. It's why we've got the support groups, and people who want to get networked into the support groups, they can reach us through our website. We have a direct page for people to get involved. And then for those who are in MAGA who have left, or those who are having doubts, they can do the same. They can reach out to us via our site. They can reach us at all of our socials. We are active everywhere. And we're gonna start looking to be doing in-person engagement, because we got to go to where people are, especially in rural areas. That's where we're going to find the highest concentration of people who have left MAGA, and the ones who are having doubts, in those red areas where they're the people who are confused right now and fearful to leave. They're around a lot of other MAGA people, and we need to give them an outlet. We need to give them a destination, a new community, and an off-ramp for them to leave, and have them feel that they can do it without the fear and repercussions that come from admitting a mistake and changing your mind.
Well, Rich, I got to say, our members at defiance.org have given us a very clear directive. At our monthly member meeting, they said, look, our overwhelming priority is protecting the midterm elections, protecting them from sabotage, making sure that there's great voter turnout. And as we were thinking about things that we wanted to supercharge, making sure that we were also helping drive defections from MAGA was top of the list. This isn't speculative. It worked before. Anyone who thinks that Donald Trump lost the 2020 election because, the nation was electrified by Joe Biden was not awake. Okay, that's not how the election was won. If you dig into the data, a historic number of Republicans in the swing states that Joe Biden won either decided not to go vote, or they held their noses and for the first time in their lives voted for a Democrat instead of Donald Trump. They were sick of it. Defections were crucial in defeating Donald Trump in 2020. And again, I hate to say it, it wasn't Hassan Piker that inspired them. It wasn't Bernie Sanders who inspired them. They saw fellow conservatives leaving Trump's orbit and saying, hey, it's okay. You can still be a conservative and say, this guy duped us. This guy is terrible. So what you are doing, Rich, is real. It works. In fact, I personally would be willing to say that it's more effective than almost any of those other electoral strategies out there to protect our democracy. And so that is why, my friend, we have a little special announcement for you today. I think we have a clip from one of our Defiance.org members that we want to share.
Hello, my name is Kent Larson from Rehoboth Beach in Lower Slower, Delaware. On behalf of all Defiance members, it is my honor to share we are providing Leaving MAGA a grant of $20,000 for their important work in Montana ahead of the midterms. Thank you very much.
All right, Rich, let's do it. You're an official Defiance partner now. We're excited to be working with you, buddy.
I don't know, even you had to spring this on me. I thought I was coming on to just that means on behalf of everyone here, how honored and humbled and grateful we are. And we're going to make you guys and all the other partners proud of the work that we're going to be doing.
Right on.
It means a lot.
Rich, we're going to need you. We're going to need you to do a Tom Cruise jumping on Oprah's couch sort of thing right now. If you got a couch that you can go jump on, we got to create that moment.
I'll do it in my office chair.
Benny's got a second thing to apologize for, though. He can't. He's already done the apology to it back. He can't do that.
I don't want to. I don't want to reveal too much, but we've already we've had some discussions on our end on really interesting ways that we can partner with you all. We are aware of some of the undertakings you all are planning for the rest of this year. And so because we knew about some of those, we felt very excited about and encouraged to supercharge what you're doing. So Rich, I'll just say for our members, we're really excited in the coming weeks to let them know some of the things that you all will be rolling out and doing and partnering with you in states around the country, especially battlegrounds, to get people to walk away from the madness and to wake up. So we're thrilled to do that, my friend. In the meantime, Rich, I think you, me, and Xander are going to have to hop on a Zoom somewhere in the next few days, and we're going to get to work. We're really excited to team with you. We're really grateful for what you've been doing, my friend. And we'll have you back here in a few weeks when we're ready to make some announcements together.
Thank you, guys. It means so much to us to entrust us with this, and we're very deeply grateful and appreciative.
Thank you,
Rich
brother. We're
Logis,
believers.
We are believers. You are a patriot. Rich Logis, founder of Leaving MAGA. Make sure you go check out their site, which has been on the lower crawl there on the screen. And we'll be having another conversation with him soon. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Rich.
Xander, this is what it's all about, my man. This is why we started Defiance.org, is to get out there, highlight these efforts, supercharge these efforts. I think the language you and I have been using is we either fund it or we fuel it, or if we can't, if it's not out there, we go foment it, right? We've gone and created several projects that didn't exist to go do the things that need to be done every week to fight back against Trump's corruption. Go, 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 go. And this is one of those weeks where we can't say, oh, gee, it looks like people in MAGA are upset. Let's just see if enough of them will defect. No way. We're going to pour gasoline on the fire right now, people. That's what we have to do. That's why we do this weekly and not once a quarter, is we need to keep up with what's happening and make sure that we are driving towards the restoration of the rule of law in the United States of America. So with that, Xander, before we close out, give us our weekly actions. We just made the big announcement, but what we like to say is, if you're a Defiance.org member and you want to go above and beyond, or if you're just watching us for the first time and saying, this is pretty cool what these guys do, there's other things that you can do on top of the announcement we just made today to help support Leaving MAGA. What are those things they can do, Xander, man?
We don't just fund it, we take action. We've got 3 actions this week. One, luckily we talked about it, Lace. One is read Leaving MAGA's Reaching Out Guide. I
think you wrote Lean MAGA there. I think it says read Lean MAGA. I figured if I live corrected your grammar, that might be good for you and us.
I'm embarrassed to say I also saw that before the show, and I made an executive decision not to correct it.
We just got to go, man.
I was like, maybe Miles won't call it out. I was wrong. Of course he called it out. All right. So
it's the guy who has 20 spelling errors in every article I send out every day. But anyway, go ahead.
I put the Reaching Out Guide link in the Substack chat right here. It's just a guide on how to talk to your friends and family that have been, involved in and been a part of this political extremism that we've seen take over so much of our country, and how to have those conversations. Part 2 is, after you read that guide, go have a conversation. Meet with a friend or family member, and remember to listen. They'll say more in the guide, but first and foremost, listen. And as I mentioned earlier, what's helped me a lot is just asking why. And usually I can empathize with the why. I too don't like corruption in DC. I too don't like forever wars. I too don't like what's happened in the middle class to so many American workers. And so I found I've been prepared for more abrasive conversations than the ones I've walked into, once I've understood the why, and then we can have an honest conversation about what to do. And number 3, if you are one of those people that has been deeply impacted by your family or friends being wrapped up in this MAGA movement. And man, as Rich was saying that, my godfather basically, helped raise me after my father passed. He's been wrapped up in this. And it's been really hard having a fractured relationship with him. It really resonated with me as he was talking about this. Someone I considered like a father, and really we've butted heads over this stuff so much. It's been so surprising to me that he continues to double down on the plans. He was, last time I saw him, he was advocating for the development of Palestine, when that was the MAGA narrative, is we've got to redevelop it. I can't believe this guy, who I've seen do so much good. He volunteered at my refugee center, is saying things like this. And I probably wasn't practicing the Reaching Out Guide principles, and I wasn't sitting down listening in the ways that I'm now advocating for us to do it. And I want to take a second shot at that. But if that has been traumatic for you, they do have these beautiful group calls, these support calls for, members of people who have been affected by, their families or friends joining kind of the MAGA movement. And so I want to find that link. Give me a second to find that link for you all, and I'll post that in the chat as well. But they have a Zoom every Tuesday, I believe, every Tuesday. And so if you feel the need, this isn't a must do, but if you're feeling the need to, and I think I'm going to do it, join one of their support calls. And that's it.
Look,
That's
Xander,
your thing. And we got a badge for you, as always. Sorry,
I just took 2 of those actions while we were on. I looked through the reaching out guide, which I haven't. I was looking down while you were talking because I just texted someone who I have been close to in years past, that I've gotten distance from because of their MAGA views, and proposed getting together. I didn't say we're going to get together because I'm going to try to get you to leave MAGA, but I was just texting on my phone there. This is real, people. These are the things you have to do, and this is the moment to do it. You just saw it with the folks on that podcast, right? The MAGA mom who's now having second thoughts. That's happening to the people right now in MAGA. Help push them over the edge, but don't be patronizing. Follow that guide. I know the temptation is to be patronizing. I told you so, and I want to tell you how bad this guy is. But if you want to win, you could do that if you want to feel good about yourself. That ain't going to do shit to save your democracy. If you want to win, if you want to restore the rule of law, go change a mind by showing empathy as that exit ramp. That's what I want you to remember before you have that coffee. When you're ordering that coffee at the coffee bar and your MAGA friend or family member sitting there waiting for you to come back, just talk track. Empathy as the exit ramp. That's how you're going to help make this possible. This is real. This is how countries are saved, is not people podcasting, people out there in the real world taking these actions. So read that guide, meet with someone, actually do something real, and check out that link that Xander put in there on one of those Leaving MAGA support group calls. That will help give you some ideas. I'm going to do it. Xander, if you remind me, I'm going to report back. I'll be able to report back in 5 days how this conversation goes. So if you remind me early next week, I'll tell you. I'll give you some pointers from my experience, and I'll see if I can say who this person is. I'll see how that conversation goes, if I can be a little bit more specific. So look, folks, this is what defiance.org is all about. If this is the first time you are seeing us, please like and share and subscribe to these posts, whatever social media platform you are on. That's not so Xander and I can become pro-democracy famous. That's so we can grow the defiance in this country. That's what we're in it for. I always say to Xander, when this is all over, I'm disappearing into the wilderness. You're not going to see me. And Xander says, no, we got to keep defying things. I don't know. Jury's out. I'm at least here until Donald Trump is gone. But that's what we are doing, folks. And if you feel inspired to be a part of this, if you feel inspired to help us in our community, go support groups in real time, like Leaving MAGA, like the organization suing the Trump administration, like the people protecting whistleblowers, like the groups putting the Epstein mobile on the road to get the Trump Epstein files out there to the country, then come join defiance.org and make those things possible. We're thrilled to have you all in our community. And Xander, we've got one more show this week that we want folks to join for, which is tomorrow. We've got another episode of Defiance Daily, and our friend Mondale Robinson is joining us. Mondale's going to be with us, right? I wasn't sure if that was tomorrow or next week, but Friday's a federal holiday. It's Juneteenth, so we're not going to be on the air. So join us tomorrow for a great conversation. Xander, anything else to add on that front? I'm psyched about the mission this week, and I tried really hard not to reveal what Leaving MAGA is going to be rolling out in the coming weeks, because I think we'll have an announcement on that July at the latest.
Gang, I just love what we're building here. Honestly, I'm so happy you brought up Mondale Robinson, because I think it says something that this organization with these members has on back-to-back days, Leaving MAGA with a former, MAGA influencer that is on his redemption arc in organizing people out of the movement. And the following day, we have the leader of Black Male Voter Project, who has been fighting for the liberation of Black men in this country for some time. And we're going to learn the day before Juneteenth, the holiday to mark the end of slavery after it was delayed for 2 years in Texas, how to be better allies to Black men across the country, how to make sure that we are supporting movements that support Black men, and how we eventually, will realize that dream of a country where everyone does feel like they have a place in it, they are safe, and there's hope moving forward.
Yeah, and we can get back to the time when Xander and I are at each other's throats on policy issues. I would love to fight this socialist over here on the screen more often on policy, but we're never arguing because we're in this fight to save our democracy. So please, if anything, help us get to a place where Xander and I can be more combative with each other. That's what this is all about. If you want this podcast to become a little bit more confrontational, well, then sign up at defiance.org, help us save the democracy, and then Xander and I will fight over how healthcare should be administered in the United States.
I do have that thought once an episode. You'd be like, Iran's the bloodiest regime. I'm like, should I fight it? No, democracy's not saved yet. Let's keep going. let's keep the episode rolling.
Too good. Listen, folks, as I always say, we've got a lot to do. There's a lot more work. Scarier things are going to happen, but we're going to stick together. We're going to defy this regime. We're going to outlast this regime. We are going to restore our democracy. And until then, do what we always say. Stay loud, stay brave, and stay together. We'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, gang.